camera off. So your privacy is secured. Take a while, 1 second until the, yes, should be working. Camera off. So okay. Your recording is on, so please be aware. I will publish the link for a short period of time on Moodle, or send it to the people who really want to have a look at what is going on. And then I will delete it again for yours and my privacy. Okay, so collaboration is core, and it's something really you should be able to, not only to be skilled on it, but also being able to teach or to facilitate enhancement of collaborative skills, and using technologies for others. So I think it's an important part of the new literacies. So try to get whatever you can. Before we start about the topic of today, I would like to come back to what I asked you to do for today. It was actually about one enhanced visual literacy, about creation of a poster. And I got aware when I checked about the work you proposed and published on Moodle, that maybe the way I formulated the task was not so clear. So actually, I'm not sure that if every group could produce a poster and publish it, a digital poster, and maybe there's a misunderstanding. So if your group didn't produce a digital poster yet, I would like to explain again all the tasks that have to be done for today, and please do it tomorrow or before of Sunday if possible, because we will have a second phase of peer assessment using the work you've done now. So you will be asked to do some peer assessment for next week. So that's why the homework of today should be complete. So I share the screen and would like to, let me see which one. Oh no, I have to prepare the screen before I start sharing. 1 second. Have a look which screen I need to share. Yeah, this here. I'll go to the Moodle platform, and we'll show you where the homeworks are described in detail. Now I share the screen. Hopefully it works. Yes, here I am. Come on. Here I share on this screen now. Here it is. Yeah. Okay. So I hope you can see the screen, and here underneath of this folder, you see the description of the task in detail. Digital poster presentation template, instruction for session 2 activity. Here is the instruction. And if you read this instruction, it's a Word document. I think you cannot see it on the screen because I didn't share the full things. You can just fill all the tasks you have to do. And on task 2, there is like one task which is called really create a digital poster. And I didn't see in all the groups this poster, and I was thinking, yeah, maybe I was not very clear about that. So don't worry if you didn't finish until now, but please finish the homework to next Sunday, so we can go on with the next step. So I close the document. If you did everything right, then you're on the good side. I won't criticize because maybe the mistake was a bit on my side. Okay, we start with the presentation and what's going on for today. I made an introduction about what collaboration is and how important it is. We will have a look at the following topics: collaborating and communicating using digital tools. And then we may have just briefly have a look at collaborative content management systems. About privacy, we will discuss about reliability of sources. And that's the thing I mentioned, which might be a bit boring for a librarian here around us. I plan to present the homeworks today and discuss about the follow-ups, because I think not all of you had the full finished homework on the platform. I will skip this part. Maybe it will take a bit less long today, the lessons I will present, or we will have a look at this presentation next time. So next time we will present just 2 things. First of all, the homework for today and the homework for next week. So we will skip this session. So you will have a bit more time today for work on your homework for next week. One thing I would like you to do next week, starting on Monday, because some of the groups has to finish their tasks of today, I would like you to do a sort of a rating of the poster, which means each and every group has time till next Thursday night to rate the poster of all other groups, which means every group rates all the other posters. Of course, you can do it collaboratively, or you can, as you're used to do it, just give the task, you rate poster 1, the other one rates poster 2, but everyone has to rate it. And you have to rate it using rubrics. The rubrics are presented there for the poster. It was part of the work today, so you should be familiar with these rubrics. And then you have to as well give a comment. And then you publish all the things in one file and you send it to me, and then I will distribute all the peer assessments to the groups, and I will also give a feedback to your poster. And the thing is, actually, this feedback will happen not next week, because I will get all your results at the end of next week, but I will do it between next week and the coming week. The feedback I write, and you will get also the feedbacks from all the groups. So this is a homework to be done until June 17th. There will be other homeworks as well. Okay. We start with the boring part for the librarian, maybe not for all of you. And this is actually the discussion about reliability of sources. If you look at the digital or new literacies, the reliability of sources, it's part of the information literacy. If you get information, being able to differentiate between information which is relevant and noise, you call that noise. I just interrupt because I have a question in the chat. I would like to double confirm, is that we have to include all the things, summary, posters in one Google Docs? No, it doesn't matter. You can use the template I proposed there. If you don't have used it, you can use also another template you create. There are 3 tasks, which can be a couple of files. And of course, you can just give a link to a Google folder where I can accede to all the other things. So just depending on what you publish, you will have all the things. The poster, of course, cannot be part of a Google Docs, because usually posters are presented in different formats, and digital posters, there is a lot of software supporting fancy and nice and interactive digital posters. By the way, you have an example of a digital poster also on Moodle, published on session 2, so you can just follow up there. The software you use for the poster is up to you. Yeah, one folder is fine, yeah. Is that okay? Did I answer your question? I don't know who asked the question. It was Christopher. Did I answer your question? Yes, okay. So we go back to reliability of resources. Thank you for your question. Reliability of resources. When is a resource reliable? When is information crucial and important for what you're looking for? When you have to question it? When you have to just drop it? So this is a very important skill for now, and also in the future we will have even more. It will be even more challenging to make selections between reliable, high qualitative, or not reliable, or even false information. The reason why this development takes place is the explosion of the internet, as all of you know, and the explosion of information transmission. The facility to publish, the facility to produce, of course, makes it easier for all of us to create relevant information, but it's also much easier as well to create information which might be misguiding. And as you know, the news, especially in social networks, are not really reliable. And you all of you had already the experience about fake news, about misinformation, even related to scientific facts. And socially, what's going on. I think even now, when actually now, where during the pandemic, where a lot of people were afraid, they were rather keen on accepting information from not really reliable sources. And such a behavior is even more risky than just accepting maybe a scientific source for a paper you want to publish, which is not really 100% reliable. Because if you submit such a paper on a serious journal, then the reviewer will just find it out. But if you publish on Twitter or on your blog some false or non-correct information related to the virus, and by chance it gets viral, you can create a lot of chaos and actually do some bad things. We'll check about criteria for reliability, criteria for non-reliability, source types, and then at the end you will have time to do an individual exercise in order to a bit enhance your skills, or to have a look at how good skilled you are, how sensitive you are related to this topic. Okay, I would like you to try to answer silently these questions, or some of these questions, without using the internet or any digital resource. Once you read these questions, please have a look at the last question as well. This is mandatory. Okay, so which question is the most difficult to answer from your point of view?
All of them.
Yeah, I have something in chat. You can also use the microphone, but of course the chat is also good. Let me check. You have to. Of course, I think for me as well. Question 2, yeah. Question 2, second question, Thailand, yeah. And of course, why? You don't have any expertise, or maybe you have been there on holiday. Or do we have a citizen from Thailand here as a participant? I don't know. I didn't look at the nationalities. No, I think no one is from Thailand. For them, it would be a different question, you know. Then I may have asked, how many provinces are exist in Switzerland? How many dialects exist in Switzerland? And then Pardon? I didn't hear you. Okay, it was a mistake. So I could have asked, you know, the question. Sorry, could you mute your microphone or translate into English? I don't speak Mandarin, or maybe it was Cantonese, I don't know. Okay, thank you. So, of course, the first and second questions for non-local are the most difficult questions. And the other one, you are local, you are living in Hong Kong, or you have a connection to Hong Kong. So it's easier for you to answer the third and the fourth question. And the last question is irrelevant. Why is it difficult? One answer I gave you, because you are sort of an expert by sharing this culture, by being aware of the place, by being aware of what happens, of the news on the place. And then on the other hand as well, yeah. Of course, you asked, Joshua says, yeah, of course, the last question, what are the last three popular movies about superheroes? And well, you can say it's a bit a subjective question, but I think superheroes, if you look at the term superhero from the point of view that the most watched or the most cited whatever superheroes, I think I'm talking about the one in Marvel, but maybe Joshua, you have another idea of superhero. Who is a superhero for you?
No, it's just I guess
popular in what sense? Popular in most people like it, or popular in most money made, or popular?
Right. Exactly.
I guess that's probably subjective.
Well, the question is actually not precise, but I think if you go, most people like, of course, there are statistics, there are posts from other people in social networks. You can also like try to find reliable sources on that. But of course, it's more sort of a subjective question. I agree, but for sure you are more familiar with superheroes than with Thailand dialects, and of course all this information you can research on the internet, and of course not all this information is easily found, and I think it's also for these types of question I ask here, the probability of finding not reliable sources are higher for certain questions and lower for other questions. What do you think? For which questions are the probability to find misinformation higher? Question 1, 2, 3, or 4. The probability to find misinformation or not reliable information for which of these questions? Question 2, okay. Question 3. Question 3. Okay. Question 3. Okay, it's question 3. Okay, most of you go to question 3. Can you give me a reason why you would like to say, because much of the actors charged shouldn't be something? Okay, of course, yeah. Then of course there are speculations. Well, first of all, starting with the two primary questions, they don't. Question 2 could be political, which would attract more misleading information. Very good answer. Yeah. Should only be an estimation, of course. Yeah. Agree with question 2. Well, I think question 1, we all agree. This is a question where you don't find so many misinformation. And if there is misinformation, it's very easy to detect it. For question 2, it becomes immediately much more difficult, first of all, to find reliable sources. I think if you have a source which is related to the regions there might be a little bit more dialects. Maybe if it's like a governmental organization who publish it, may try to be like sort of objective, but also there, maybe they don't like some dialects, so they will keep the number a bit lower. So there might be also some misinformation. And then we come to question 3. Of course, there is some privacy issues. Not all the authors, they publish their tax expenses or their income. And of course, there is also a lot of things that change. Means that, you know, they pretend to earn a lot, maybe they earn less, they pretend to earn low, but at the end of the day, they earn a lot because they have side incomes from advertisement or whatever. And so that's why there you may find different information. So did you check on the internet? Maybe someone, I think Lam Ho, did you check on the internet and then the response was Jackie Chan? Is that correct?
No, I just made a blind guess.
Well, then check. Ask the question on the internet. Was it the answer of Google in Hong Kong? Answer 3, question 3.
Okay, I try to do it now.
Yeah, please. And that's right. No direct evidence is offered for verification. Unless you are part of the government and have access to the tax expenses. And so you can see related to the taxes, they should declare their income. If they are good people, they declare it and then they pay accordingly. So you see, these are very important questions because there's a lot of information about all actually this. Please interrupt us when you found the answer about the most expensive actor in Hong Kong. I will continue. Important it is, we need a sort of a common sense about being sensitive and being critical readers. And then determine, related to our experience and related to some other rules to follow, what you should believe and what you rather not believe. Okay, in the chat we have it. Okay, hotspot. So, yeah, I am right from this piece of source. So, what do you think? Hotspot TV, Hotspot TV. Okay, is that and then what they say there? Is it Jackie Chan? Do you think this is a reliable source?
Not quite sure, but this is the first one popping up, and I just.
So do you think like sort of a TV, I think it's a TV channel, is that rather an informing channel or an entertainment channel, the Hotspot TV? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Well, that's relevant, I think. You know, the reliability of information, if the TV channel has on their like policy that they want specifically, they want to inform, if the TV channel is not owned by a private industry, but rather by a state, but also there you have to be careful. So then the reliability grows or decreases. So that's a many information, but Jackie Chan, of course, is very famous and probably is one of the most earning or the most expensive or actors in Hong Kong with the most income. So we need critical readers, and I think I gave you an example about how to manage information, how to discuss about the source of information. We will go through a lot of some of rules to follow up in order to be sure that the reliability is high. What are rather reliable sources? And of course, also there you still need to be critically, to read critically. Authored book, edited and published, the reliability just raises by the effort many people have been taken to control, to verify the information. So if you write a book, then you put it, or you edit a book, you go to a publisher. Of course, this publishing house has a sort of policy, and they say we just want to publish high quality standard information like Oxford University Press or Cambridge University Press, or we want just to have entertainment, so our information has not necessarily to be 1000% reliable. Relate to the name of the publisher and the people who edits it. You can say authored book can be reliable. The newspapers and magazine, well, you know about newspapers depending where they come from, what sort of newspapers there are, and magazines as well. But then we come from the scientific point of view, the peer-reviewed journal and peer-reviewed articles. You can say such sources may have quite some reliability. Then if you go to PhD or MBA, dissertation and research works, of course, these works as well are reviewed by a supervisor, which is supposed to be an expert on that area. So this information has quite a high reliability. Also things you find in libraries, which are most of the time authored book or publication, which has been selected by people who are aware of reliability of information, librarian. So they say, no, we don't take this journal, we don't take this magazine because it's not reliable. So they are aware. So, and then if they decide that this source may have a certain impact and may be quite important, then they put it in their library. So you have access to it and you can say, okay, someone took some time, someone which is a bit expert took some time to analyze this and to decide. So for me, I can go with still read carefully, but maybe a bit less carefully than if you just go on the web and type in like a search question. On the other hand, also educational institution and their websites, of course, if it's related to educational information, but if you want to have some information about how to drill oil and you find it on an educational institution page, then of course you can say maybe people who want to educate are not really the best experts related to how to drill oil in the Atlantic Ocean. How to tell whether it's reliable or not? One very easy way to do it, and of course still reading carefully, is about the way if you look at the URL, the ending of the URL, and of course you have educational URL, also .edu, educational institutions who write that, so that usually are a bit more reliable. Governmental web pages coming from any government can be reliable, but of course there is some political background there. So if you look at the governmental page of Switzerland or the governmental page of Italy, they have different policies and they have different opinions. I don't make any examples from Asia. I use around myself, my country here. So there are the political power also try to impose some meaning and opinions, and that's why also there you have to cross-check even if it's a governmental page. URLs ending by org, non-profit, of course, there are specific interests followed up, but usually sort of information which is related to some specific interest, which is related to selling points, like other URLs ending by .com. There it's a bit less reliable, or maybe not really fitting to the requirement of what we want to find. Well, in order to tell how reliable it is, you can have a look at, if you go to a journal or a magazine article, you have to look also at the bibliography. And that's also, as student as well, if you have bibliography where you cite mostly of all blogs or tweets or Wikipedia articles, then for sure the reliability of the information you publish is not that high. So on the other hand, if you really have a lot of sources which are really related to peer-reviewed articles, high-ranked articles, good editors, then of course the value, and they are also like up to date, means like not really 100 years old, then probably they are better reliable. On the other hand, when you look at news, we had this example about this Jackie Chan question we had before. If a news channel, like a television channel, I don't know the name again, you just published in the chat. If it's rather an entertainment channel, then of course the reliability is not as high as if it is a purely information channel. Then you should better trust the information channel. Now we have the unreliable. I mentioned already Wikipedia, blogs, personal websites, sites created by organization, which political messages or biases, opinions about something, and then URLs ending by com, commercial. Of course, if you have a commercial site on the background, at the end of the day, you want to sell something, which means it biases you. So you have to be careful about this information. But of course, in general, not all com sites are really like biased. Not all, but some are. Lam Ho Ming writes, SMCP, South China Morning Post is more reliable, of course. So you found again as the same, that South China Morning Post says that also Jackie Chan is the most expensive. Yeah, okay, well, so then I think in this case, I would rather rely on South China Morning Post than on this TV channel, but I don't know, maybe it's a very important TV channel. Well, depends, that's a question from Joshua. If they charge you money to read their information, is that more reliable? The thing is, not so sure about it. It depends. If you buy like a magazine, which is a fashion magazine, then you pay for it. And if you get some information on the web, you usually don't pay for it. If you are skilled to filter good information in the web, I think you can still get more reliable information than from a paid source. Of course, you can say if they charge the reader for that information, means they don't have to get a lot of money through publicity, through advertisement. And once you have a lot of advertisement, of course, you are biased because if you have a big sponsor and then the sponsor starts saying, listen, I don't want you to publish something about shampoo, which is not the one we produce. If you have like a sort of a big sponsor, which is owner of a big shampoo factory, and then say, listen, if you publish articles which are not good for us, we will stop the sponsoring contract. And then, of course, as a newspaper who is for free and don't charge the people who read, you may think about being careful about such information. And of course, as you say, sometimes pay for subjective opinion as well. Yeah, you see, it's very difficult to say something in general. You have to decide from case to case. You have to read carefully. You have to read different sources, and you have to evaluate how to judge whether which information may be relevant or less relevant. One thing is also maybe a relevant effect or may have an impact on the reliability of information is the type of source you're looking at. Is it a primary source, which means I make an example which I will just go back on it later and maybe make it a bit more relative. Primary source, I go to a place where something happens, I take a picture and publish it. And then you would think on the first stage, yeah, well, that's primary source. And he saw it, he took a picture and published a picture. Or even better, I go there and then take a video of someone acting like that. I take a video of someone, whatever, running over the street, and the light is red, over the red light. So I can catch him and say, listen, you have to go to court. This is something which is not allowed. Please act accordingly to the law. And then you would say, yes, that's a primary source. That's reliable. That's correct. I'm sure you're all aware of the possibilities you have nowadays to change this information, to beautify pictures. That's something very common, not only for girls. If you look at the social media, I think 1/3 or even more of the pictures taken, especially the selfies taken, they are beautified, which means they are not reliable. So if you see a handsome man on internet, on Instagram or Snapchat, or I don't know if you're on a dating site, then you have to be careful, because even if you think that is for sure a primary source, for sure this person took the picture himself, but still nowadays with the technology we all know, and it's very easy to use, you can falsify this information, make things more pretty than they are, and show the things which are pretty, hide the things which are not so pretty. When we talk about video, it's the same thing, actually. As you know, even this tool we are using now, Zoom, if you go into the cam setting, you can smoothen the image, which means what you see of me, of my face. If you would see me live, I would look so much older, because I try to smoothen as much as I can. So also there, even if you think it's a live primary source information you get, so you see exactly the face of this old professor in Switzerland, then if you see him really in the room or walking around in Hong Kong, you would think, oh, I didn't thought that he looked so old. He was looking much younger or whatever, a little bit younger over cam. So there, also their primary sources are more reliable, but there be careful as well. And of course, secondary sources, there are usually a bit less reliable, because there someone talks about something he might not have seen or she might not have seen directly. There's a much more area, a range of interpretation possible. So there, be a bit more careful about that as well. Okay. It's important for you that you evaluate sources, the purpose of the source, what's about and why they write about that. Do they have any interest to write something which is biased? Who is the target audience of the source? If you read an article about a fairy tale and you targeted the kids, the young kids, so maybe this fairy tale may not be really like data driven and reliable, but because it's a fairy tale, so it's nothing to be true. Then the relevance, and then the authorship. Who wrote it? Is it someone which is killed? Is it something which is related to subjective opinions? Is it written when it's a subjective opinion? Is it cited when there is not a subjective opinion? You know that about how to publish things. Then important as well about the current. Is it current? Is it happened now? Has the article been written much later or much earlier? Or then, of course, then if you write something at the moment when it happens, the probability that you remember well what happened there is better than if you write something about something that happened 20 years ago. Of course, if you read something and the grammar is bad and the style is bad, it doesn't mean that it's wrong. Maybe the person who writes the truth, but is not skilled to write. But usually, that's not really the big problem. So if the thing is grammatically correct and the word choice is okay and the structure is fine, logical, built up, then also you may have, that may be a point that the reliability might be slightly better. But of course, these are just sort of guidelines, but not really something which can be used in any case. Remember, read critically is the more important. Okay, we make a little game. I give you about 10-15 minute time. You can overlook the article about reliability. It's like a bit of a recapitulation of what I said now. You can have a look at the video, which is targeting primary school kids, or one or the other. And at the end, you can try to make this little game, takes you 3 minutes, about testing the understanding, your understanding of reliability. And we do it right now, and we continue, I would say, in, now it is 7, no, what time is it? Yeah, 7:11. We continue at 7:25, 14 minutes time. Each and every one, follow that. You find the link on the slides or here. Oh, I can publish the links on the chat. That's even better. Oh, I will publish links on the chat, and I will mute myself. Oh, does someone does already? Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for the publishing on the chat. Thank you very much. Now I'm home. I think maybe you are already done. If not, I think the resources are there. I would quickly like to discuss the test, which was the most difficult part. Where did you make the most mistakes? Of course, maybe you don't want to open up, but I think there are some sources which really are not as non-reliable as they are written there. Especially, I think there's Wikipedia mentions there. And of course, the reliability of Wikipedia depends on the authors there. You don't know the authors actually, but you can have a look in the version control who wrote it, and especially on Wikipedia, the citations at the bottom of any articles, they may give you a hint about more reliable sources. So actually, as an entrance source, Wikipedia at the end of the day may be more reliable than others, especially if you consider how the citation list is, who wrote the things, and where the things have been cited from, where the pictures come from. So also there, being able to read critically is something very important on any stage. I will continue. At the moment, if you are not really done, you can do it by yourself at home. If you are at home later, I mean later is better. We come to the main topic of this day. It's about opportunities for collaboration and communication using digital technologies. Of course, collaboration is core. Building pyramids cannot be done by a single person. And pyramid is one example of a very complex building, which has been created many, many years ago. There a lot of effort, collaborative effort has been taken from planning to executing and then to building at the end of the day. So the thing is actually such projects which are complex, which are at the first stage seems to be impossible, are only possible if you work together creatively, collectively, and if you collaborate together, else it's impossible for a human being. If you look at the development of the problems we are facing, the global problems, and also the daily problems, the problems at work, in general, the complexity of tasks and problems encountering of a human being, they increases during time. We have more complex problems to solve today, not only on the global scale, but also on the personal scale, on a professional scale, than we had 300 or 400 years ago. Which means this ability to collaborate, and I don't talk just about the online collaboration or the digital, the collaborations supported by digital technologies. I talk about general collaboration. This skill, this competence is crucial for all and every one of us. And that's why it's important to spend some time about this literacy, which is, of course, enhanced substantially using technologies. And I would try to focus a bit on the differences or on the added values, and of course also on the backsides. Every medal has two sides of the online or of the collaboration supported or using digital technologies. We will go back to have a little historical overview, then have a look at online communication and collaboration. Why is it good? Why is it not good? Then we have a look about two theories, which are actually a bit one coming from the other, but I will talk about it later. We will mention Linda Harasim and Karl Bereiter and Marlene Skardamalia. These three researchers actually all come from the same university, or they were working on a certain period of time in Canada together. Of course, there are many other theories, and I will just focus on these two basing or related to this topic of collaboration. First of all, a historical overview, the development, the evolution of communication. Using a sort of technology, of course, communication was core. The development of language is not only by human done. We have not only apes being able to communicate, also other more primitive living organism can communicate. We can go back also to communication of plants. So communication in life is crucial, but communication using technology started, can say, started somehow in 1861 with the telegraph, and then there was a big change through the digitalization of the communication possibilities. And of course, 1969, the ARPANET as the father or the mother of the internet has been created. And then finally, 1992, we have the web. The internet actually has been created a bit earlier. And I think you are expert here, but I still dare to ask the question, the internet and the web, is that not a synonym? Is that not the same thing? I ask you the question. What is the difference between the web and the internet? Not the same? Obviously not, else I wouldn't ask this question. Oh, no chat. Yes.
The internet was invented by Tim Berners-Lee.
Yes.
And that's the system or the framework that holds the web.
Yes, exactly. So the web is what? Then a part of the framework. Can you say that maybe in other words as well? Yeah, it's correct what you're saying.
It's a platform.
Yes.
Sitting on the
platform is not so bad. Maybe it's a bit more general if you say it's a service, one among different services which are actually provided or can be provided using the internet. The network can provide different services, and one of those services is actually the web. The web follows a specific protocol as well and is visible over a specific browser, a tool which allows to access this service, but there are also other information which are stored and transmitted over this sort of internet, and which is not part of the web. So web is just one. Of course, it's a very important and also I think one of the most used service in the internet. The internet is this, it's a big institution, the network, and allows different services to be provided. And one of them is the web. And this web has been developed 1992. Okay, and we have a chat. Yeah, exactly. That's what this definition plus X, Y, and Z. It can be mail, can be like sort of databases which are interacting with each other, other sort of algorithm working on one or the other. We have the deep web, which is also part of the web, but maybe even that is a totally different service, but it's still called web. Many other services as well. Okay, that's a good, from Lao Ming, a good interaction, a good definition here. After that, if you look not only at the communication, we look at the education. Now we focus on education. And astonishingly, we have education using sort of technology starts 1970, so before the internet and the web has been created. There were sort of university courses which were provided and stored on specific servers on the university and could be delivered to potential students who wanted to take this course and who wanted to learn something about the topic proposed by the producer, by the teacher there. If you look at the first distance course, which doesn't use sort of technology, like means that digital technology, but other technology, there were like sort of distance education going back, I think, the end or beginning of the 19th century by mail, I mean by written email. So there were like sort of tasks sent by email, and then they had, not by email, sorry, by mail, and then the task had to be accomplished and then sent back. So distance education is much older than that, but technology enhanced education started in 1970. And then we have different phases. First online course, 81, a program 82, network classroom 83. So long before the internet really hit the world and changed our life drastically. Then we have actually the first large scale online course was 1989, and now we come to the first national educational network 1993. And if you have a look that the web had been invented 1992, 1993, education was already took this bait and started by creating new or different opportunities for learning, which means actually education was one of the first or a very important element driving the development of the internet before other services came up, before other stakeholders took over, before big companies started to use the internet for their purposes, which were not purely or not at all educational. Interestingly, the development of the ARPANET, after having military background, got a scientific background. Actually, the scientists were aware that it was very important not only to keep the information on one place, but to being able to exchange with other researchers in the same area or in the similar area. And that was one of the big motivations to create this first university level networks. At that time, it was a sort of education as well, an educational motivation to create this network. So it means like technology and internet technology was one of the driving force beside of military things to make these things happen. And nowadays, of course, there's a lot of things going on. And there, as I mentioned before, these universities who created this ARPANET, or they created this network, these university-wide networks, they had the idea of collaboration. That means they wanted to be able to exchange fast and quickly and without a lot of expenses the knowledge they had with other people thinking about the same problem. So collaboration, in order to be able to solve problems which cannot be solved on an individual scale, was one of the big motivators for pushing at that time, pushing the web ahead. So collaboration was core. If you have a look at the different types of education you have the online computer-based training. That is something was quite well situated, and was at that time, if you go back to the 90s, there was quite behavioristic theories were quite popular, and there you thought, of course, you get some question and answer, try and error sessions, and this was actually the basis of a lot of online computer-based training, CBT. A lot of such trainings have been developed, and actually a lot of companies, not only educational companies, but also military or other companies, they tried to train their employees using such computer or technology-based training session. There were most of them were just based upon like information transmission and assessment, means like sort of a try and error, quite a strongly behavioristic approach. Another form of education using the technologies, of course, distance education. And of course, we will talk about distance education because it's core here. Distance education is actually the fact that you don't have to travel. That's what we are doing now. I am in Europe, you're in Asia. And you try to get something from my knowledge, from the knowledge I gathered together from my experience. And we use the technology in order to being able to communicate, being able to discuss, being able to interact, being able to exchange. But at the moment, what we are doing, I am talking, you're hopefully listening, or you're trying to even take notes. Then we have this one part which delivers and the other part which receives. And this has actually not such a big impact on your development of skills. It is proven quite widely in the literature that by not only receiving information and trying to store it or to work on it, but by exchanging information in the sense of trying to reach a common goal within a group of people which have about the same knowledge, but are skilled to find further knowledge, and being like tutored or guided by a person which has a bit more experience in the field, that this sort of collaborative learning has a much bigger impact on your knowledge acquisition, has a much bigger impact on your extension of specific literacies, of course, related to the topic you want to discuss about and to learn. So you have these elements: collaborative learning, online collaborative, online distance learning, and online computer training, and all that. There are 3 types, and of course there are more about that. So while online communication collaboration, one big plus of such online or technology enhanced communication and collaboration is actually the ability to have a look at what happened in the past. Which means if you have a discussion with a tutor about a work you're doing, and he speaks about things that he finds good or he or she finds not so good about your work, if you have a face-to-face discussion, you can take some notes, but of course you are not able to trace all the things that has been said in the past. If you have a chat as a counterpart with your tutor about your work, all the chat all the things which has been written or said can be traced back. So which means if at the beginning of the 3-hour discussion, the tutor said, listen, on page 7, you still have a major issue because you relate your work to a theoretical background which is not reliable. If he just says it, or the tutor, he or she just says it, and you just, at that moment, you don't have time to read it down because you're so depressed because you think that you have to restart your work, then the thing is gone. And on the next discussion you have with your tutor, then he or she will say, listen, I told you last time already, why didn't you adapt? This theory doesn't match to what you want to say. And then you're frustrated. Having this sort of online collaboration or communication using a chat, whatever, or here like that, video conferences, or just a phone call, you can record it as we do now. And with this record, you can, with this recording, you can go back and follow up again, step by step, and try to adapt and be more efficient and effective in the way you adapt your work accordingly to the things that have been said before. And that's just one example. There are many others. On the other hand, if you have a sort of online communication, collaboration, it's also one thing that is an added value. I mentioned that before. There is like sort of a function or a functionality of media and of the technology, which allows to bridge distances. So one of the big plus of media is they can bridge geographical distances, they can bridge temporal distances, they can bridge social distances, which means you can collaborate with anyone potentially, not only with me in Switzerland, which is at the time barrier. It's 6 hours earlier here. It's a distance. I'm 9,500 miles away from you. I have specific skills you don't have. You have others I don't have. But we can collaborate and we can actually do something together. We can bridge this distance, and by doing that, we can. I can learn from you, and you can learn from me. That are specific added values of the use of technology for collaboration. There is one theory which is actually called online collaborative learning theory. There is also a total concept. If you visit the website, it has been developed by Linda Harasim, and actually it's not really a learning theory. It's about describing mechanisms and sort of do's and don'ts for online learning. It's not really comparable to like sort of a constructivist theory. This is a learning theory about how people understand how learning takes place. And I'm sure you're aware of this constructivist learning theory, but it's about really how online collaboration can bring an added value to a learning process which is relevant for getting deep understanding, which means having like a sort of deep learning experience, which leads to a change of preconcepts. Means like you develop your knowledge about a topic by changing your point of view, the way you see it, you look at it. On the other hand, also, Harasim was very active in teacher, in education, and there, in traditional education, and there she also reflected the role of the teacher, the person who is like, not like I am doing now, transmitting knowledge and information, but trying to support the learners in their path, in the learning path, which gives a different role to the teacher, rather a facilitator than information transmitter, rather than really like a knowledge base which is transposed to the students. I would like to quickly go into that model here, which is actually this online learning collaboration model. There you have by Harasim the idea behind this image here is the following. First of all, you start from a constructivist background, which means the constructivist theoretical background means the constructivists and the social constructivists especially, they think that it's not possible to transmit knowledge from one brain to the other by listening, by watching, by doing, by getting the sort of the information or the knowledge transposed. They think that knowledge can only be created, skills can only be enhanced by constructing these specific skills from each and every learner. Which means actually, if I want to get to know more about how to drill oil, then of course I can get some starting input from someone or from a book or from a teacher, but it is much, the knowledge I get is much deeper, much more reliable and much more sustainable if I try to solve a problem. I give an example about how to drill oil in the Antarctic Ocean. And this, I do that with people together, if I exchange my prior knowledge, and then if I focus and have a look at the problems at the spots we don't have information, and then as a group go and search, go and try to find solution to the partial solution to the problem, and then develop this problem on, then what I learn about such a course is much more sustainable, much more deeper. I have 3 points. Actually, one thing is about the title here, which is called Knowledge Community. Actually, Harasim has the idea that knowledge is something which is not only related to the individual, but the knowledge can be something which is owned by a collective, by a community. So means actually, in order to solve big problems, it's solving big problems is not possible only by using the knowledge of a specific individual. You need to have a sort of a knowledge community, and the community puts together all the necessary skills and all the necessary information in order to be able to go a step forward. And this process of knowledge creating as a collaborative process has been set up in 3 different phases, and this is what I mentioned here on the second arrow. The 3 phases actually starts with a collaborative idea generation, where the groups really, with their perception and their knowledge, they put together single elements. So the group then gets a perception which is multi-individual. That means he has this perception, he has maybe another perception, he has a third perception. Of course, this phase of knowledge construction has to be initiated by a specific tutor or by a specific information source or an artifact. That can be a book, can be a video, can be whatever. And of course, the way all the things, this process of knowledge community or knowledge construction is the way it has been orchestrated, that is the role of the responsible person for this learning process. And you call it teacher, you can also call it moderator. So the moderator may give a first input or prepare some artifacts, digital or non-digital artifacts, in order to let the participants gather ideas and let them especially formulate their concepts about the problem that has to be solved. And then the thing starts happening. On the second phase, the ideas which has been formulated has to be organized. And this is a very important phase of the learning. You see there are the arrows between the learners show that actually maybe there are opinions which are divergent. There are information which are not pointing in the same way, in the same direction, which means this part where students or learners has to formulate these ideas toward others, and then some divergent ideas are emerging and they have to be discussed. There must be an argumentation. You have to decide, yeah, why do you think it's like that? Why do I think it's like that? By explanation of the personal opinion, by listening to the opinion of others, and then finding a way to combine these specific ideas, the generated ideas, in order to build some, or to find some concepts which can be accepted by the whole community, or here in this case, by the whole group. So you see here on the left part, by the idea generation, you have a lot of ideas, and then the ideas, they really get more together, they are negotiated, they are discussed. Sometimes there's like sort of conflicts which has to be resolved. And this part actually of the learning process is a crucial learning process for the collaboration. And it's a crucial learning process for effective, deep learning. And at the end, actually, you need to have a third phase, which is called intellectual convergency, where actually the group is able to solve the problem which has been solved, which has been thought or discussed, by really having this divergent ideas converging and building sort of a common knowledge. And this is actually this knowledge community which builds such a specific understanding. And usually this process can lead to an end or lead to a product, and this can be shown, and all the members of the community, all the members of the group in this case, they can share the same opinion, and the opinions of each and every single participant developed, got more sophisticated, more complex, got more deepened, got broader. And so during this process, a very important learning or skill acquisition process has been done. And then, of course, after that, the problem has been solved and a possible application can be raised from that. So it's a very important way to gather information and to develop, to have a learning path and to deepen knowledge about, or deepen skills or competencies. So we have the three phases: idea generation, idea organization, and then intellectual coverage. The synthesis is very important in order to have a final result, a final position. That is a very important part. I mentioned that in the graph before. Of course, there are differences between traditional models and online collaborative learning. With the online collaborative learning, it is time and place. Anytime, any place it can be done. The discussion and the critical exchange, the argumentation and negotiation can be done even if you're not sitting in the same place. Can be recorded, can be followed up. you know what happened, and you can say, "Oh, but you mentioned that before," and then you say, "No, I didn't." Well, let's go back and look at, and then you can. So accordingly to what has been said, and really according to the technology, can help really to have this critical exchange. Of course, there you need as well, if you have an offline collaboration, you have textbooks, and there you have digital artifacts, the internet for search, a lot of things, other tools as well. You have the opportunity for online discussion, and then between the traditional learning model and the online collaborative learning model, you have a different role of the teacher. We are now in a sort of traditional learning model where I am the teacher and I talk to you. But of course, you will have, after that, after my presentation, you will have online collaborative learning tasks to do. You will hear about that a bit later. The strength, it promotes deep learning, which means you learn about concepts, which is something important, but you learn also to discuss, to negotiate. You learn to resolve conflicts. It's possible anytime, anywhere, synchronous, asynchronous, far away, close. And actually, it helps a lot to develop skills or literacies, like critical thinking, analytical thinking, creating synthesis, creating communities. It is important to do some evaluation. It is fruitful for evaluation. It is fruitful for self-evaluation. It is also useful for enhancing also metacognitive skills, which are also quite relevant for learning processes. That's the backside of the medal. It's hard to scale. If you set up such online collaborative learning settings, you cannot scale as easy as you scale if you have like traditional, even online learning, where you have information transmission and assessment. If you look at a lot of MOOCs, and I talk about really the regular MOOCs you can get all over, Harvard, MIT, many other universities, there are like not really collaborative online learning settings. There you have a lot of like talks like we have now, and then after a certain period of time, you have questions you have to answer. When you answer the question correctly, you get a good feedback, else you don't, and you repeat, you listen again, and you go again through the assessment. And this has actually nothing to do with a collaborative learning. But such a MOOC or other traditional online learning settings, they can be very easily scaled, which means whether you do such a MOOC or an online learning setting for 10 people or 10 million people, if the bandwidth is good enough and the computers who process the information, the servers are fast enough, then the costs are not really much bigger. If you create really a collaborative learning curriculum where all these phases are taken seriously, and you give a specific to every learner formative feedback as a teacher, you group, you regroup, you enhance this exchange, you foster and scaffold the phases, the 3 phases we mentioned before, then you can have, I think, maximum 50, or if you're really very, if you want to get old fast as a teacher, 100 people, but you cannot scale up to 10,000 to 100,000 unless you have really like machines who take the role of the teacher, of the tutor. And that is something which is actually working. A lot of research is ongoing there into intelligent tutoring systems, into artificial intelligence, which may really take over or help the teacher to support such group activities. But I think we will get there, not today, not tomorrow. So I think it will take at least 10 or 20 years till we have such intelligent machines which are able to scaffold, which are able to support, to evaluate such complex collaborative activities, learning activities, knowledge building activities, so that the teacher is, or I say the human teacher, the human tutor becomes obsolete. And if once the research is so advanced that we can replace also this part of the teaching by tutoring, then of course it will be possible to scale up also such rich and I would say effective collaborative online collaborative sessions. The next dot, it's actually a question. I quote that such online collaborative learning is not friendly to science and engineering disciplines. And it lacks an inquiry or problem-based approach. Is that true? What do you think? Is that a weakness of online collaborative learning? That it doesn't work for science, it doesn't work for problem-based learning? Silent.
Maybe because when we do science, when we learn science, we need to do some hand-on experiments, and for online learning discussion, I don't think we can do that easily. So maybe it does not favor those kind of disciplines.
Okay. Actually, the thing is, the technology can support. The technology doesn't necessarily need to replace. And as you say, of course, if you want to drill oil, at the end of the day, you need a drill and you need a soil, and you have to start drilling somehow. Even if you talk a lot about it, at the end, the oil is in the soil, and you have to go there and do it. So that cannot be done by a computer. It can be at least done by a model or a simulation. At the end of the day, you're right, definitely. How to fix a bike. If you have a bike in front, you can learn a lot about it online, but at the end, you have to take the screwdriver and go and fix it or whatever, change the wheel or whatever you have to do. That is one point which I agree with. But if you think about, science is, of course, having some skills about how to do experiments and how to do on-task work, which is away from technology. Still, to learn the concepts behind of how such a chemical reaction takes place, how such drilling has to be done, how deep you have to drill because of what parameters, what sort of concepts you have, or what sort of soil you may encounter, which means also the knowledge you need in order to start drilling oil, the knowledge you need in order to being able to fix a bike. There, if you do it in a sort of a problem-based approach, and if you have the technology as a support and not a replacement of the learning process, then it's like something I don't support at all. Actually, if you're interested in how technology enhanced problem-based learning can take place and can support skills which are related also to science, then I wrote a PhD about that a couple of years ago, and I would really very much state that inquiry-based learning and problem-based approach, they can be very well supported and enhanced by using specific technology, but also there, the teacher or the facilitator has an important role in order to say where the collaborative technology has to be set up, how it has to be set up, how it has to be orchestrated. So the technology is a facilitator, is a tool to facilitate specific processes, which are actually also very effective when it comes to problem solving, to inquiry, increase of inquiry skills can be effectively set up with technology. The next model I will quickly discuss is the model about the collaborative knowledge building, which is by Bereiter and Scardamaglia. And actually Harasin, as I told already, she was a collaborator of, I think, Karl Bereiter, one of the two mentioned here. And knowledge building is also actually a similar process, but there the mechanisms of interaction among the groups is focused rather than the three phases. We had the three phases we discussed before of the model of Harasin. In the model or in the theoretical background of knowledge building, you don't have really like sort of, you can have such phases, but the idea is about how the learner has to interact. What is an effective interaction in order to foster the development of collaboration skills, of negotiation skills, of argumentation skills, and of conflict resolution skills. And there, Mr. Bereiter and Ms. Cardamaglia, they created sort of a knowledge forum, which is a tool which helps to foster this before mentioned skills, which are relevant for deep learning, for a collaboration, for knowledge building, and actually a technology and a theory which is actually still valid and still used in many didactical settings. If you're interested in these both theories, I think the link is in the title. If you go follow these links, you get some literature about, and if you follow the links of the slide before here, oh no, 2 slides before, 3 slides before, 4 slides before, 5 slides before, 6 slides before here, this link goes into the publication, the website of Ms. Harasin. So these are 2 really theoretic theories or sort of concepts fostering this this type of collaborative knowledge building. And before I had the question, is collaborative knowledge building, is it something which is not fruitful for inquiry-based learning? And actually also this is actually not true. This is the inquiry-based learning model by Mukkonen, which has been created, which has been published 1999, where you see different phases of knowledge building using an inquiry-based approach. And this is an approach that is quite popular for science, in science curricula. And there is a lot actually of possibilities of how to use this inquiry-based learning approach for science skills, for acquisition of science or STEM skills. If you're interested in that, you can look at the outlines of the course. I helped to write a book with some authors in Hong Kong about 21st skills acquisition focused on inquiry-based learning. And there we discuss as well how collaboration and collaborative learning, and especially technology-enhanced collaborative learning, fosters and helps to acquire and to develop further skills related using an inquiry-based method. So inquiry-based method is also really sort of a concept which really is very similar to the, or similar at least to the knowledge the knowledge building concept of Cardamaglia and Bereiter, and also to the online collaborative learning model of the author we mentioned before, of Harasin. Well, actually, I'm already almost done with what I wanted to say. That was my presentation about collaboration, the importance of it. And I, of course, I'm a bit earlier than I planned because I wanted to have like the presentation of the posters. So this presentation of the poster will take place in the next week. So we will have a bit more interaction or sort of input next week. But this week you have a bit more time to start with the activities for next week. And actually you have quite a lot of activities to do. There are 3 main activities to do. So it's quite a big homework till next week. First of all, you finish your posters. Of course, I didn't mention it here because I thought it's done. You finish your poster or you finish your task for today, and please do it according to the guidelines you find on Moodle in this folder. Second, you give a group feedback to each and every poster. So it means each group gives feedback to 5 others. We are 6 groups, 5 other posters. Then you have some text to read. And these texts are about collaborative learning, collaboration, collaborative knowledge building. And the third part is a very important part, is already a part of your final assignment. It's actually a part of the group assignment. That is the start point to create group portfolios. And I will spend some time to discuss about these group portfolios, and I will take then some questions, and then you may start with creation of these group portfolios. These are the tasks I want you to accomplish for next week. We start with, of course, the feedback task I described at the beginning of this presentation. So go back and look at what the task number 1. Task number 2 is the reading of the 3 texts. It's a self-reflection. And the question is, why are online communication and collaboration important nowadays? And we have the 3 texts. One is about Web 2.0 tools. The other one, advantages and disadvantages of online collaboration. And the third text is about strategies of effective online collaboration for specific situations. So these are the texts to read. Everyone, each one should please read it, and you will use it for your online collaboration, for your portfolio, and there, of course, apply what you learned about these lectures. Now we come to the assignment part, group portfolio. What is a group portfolio? Actually, a group portfolio is a learning journal, a learning journey and a learning journal, which means in a group portfolio, you display not only what you achieved and not only what you have done, but what you were thinking while doing that. What changed your concept about the area you were learning at. And this should be done not in individual, but in groups of 5, which means actually that there a collaborative creation should take place. So think of the theoretical background you got now, think of the lecture of things you read first, and then try to build this portfolio, not everyone by him and herself, and not by trying to give tasks so you don't have a look at what the other do. Try to build it collaboratively, which means if it comes to describing what you learn in session 1, then don't just write down what one group member has done. Try to do 3 phases. First, gather the ideas, then trying to put the ideas together, and then in the 3rd phases, as we had in the collaborative learning model, and then try to take this maybe divergent, maybe coherent ideas, and try to build one concept out of it. Try to do it in a collaborative way. And so you can really have a much better experience because you learn also from the others. And you try also even to learn better what you learned, because by formulating your concept, this activity of trying to present your concept to an audience which has almost the same knowledge as you have, this proceedings also is a very important learning and very effective, by the way, learning step. Then the tool to create this portfolio can be either a wiki. I don't know whether you still know this technology. You can use Google Sites, or you can use another site where collaborative editing is possible. There are some of them, Wix, or you find a lot of them. Or you can also use a group, an online or e-portfolio software, but not all the e-portfolio software can be used in a collaborative way. So I strongly propose that you use an e-portfolio where you can have collaborative writing. And about collaborative writing, I think you are all familiar with it. I give you an example which is so common at university level. We talk about if we make a brainstorm using a Google Docs. This is actually collaborative writing. If we try to write, we try to write a common article using such a tool like Google Docs. So I start giving my ideas in bullet points, all put their ideas together, then we start sorting out. Then, of course, if you want to delete something, you have to negotiate. So you have to ask, who wrote that? Why did you write it? Do you agree if I change it to my point? And this is actually the important element of knowledge building. Once you start discussing, once you start argumenting, once you start resolving conflicts. So try to build such elements in the creation of your group portfolio. That is the task. I go a bit further in details. You will be assessed following this aspect. You will be assessed about the artifacts which are produced, the way you write it, the way it is navigatable, how you can navigate through this portfolio, how the way it's communicated, and also the way you can integrate not only what you have done, but theoretical background. So it means you should really incorporate what you do with the background which I gave you, or maybe you find as well in the theory. So this is the way I will assess it. Now we go a bit more in detail of these group portfolios. The group portfolio actually can be done using a template I propose, and I give you the show you this template. Actually, I created a Google site which is called MLIM6338, and there you have ePortfolio site. So this is actually could be the ePortfolio site, the start site. Of course, from this side on, you have to navigate, you create a hypertext. But this is a start site. You can start from here, so you don't have to create anything else starting here. I go into group 7. I think nobody's in group 7. We have 6 groups. And there I give you some guidelines for the ePortfolio. And actually, that's basically what is for the assignment. I've seen, I showed the slide before. And actually, also what the ePortfolio must contain. And from here, you start creating your hypertext. This is an easy way, but of course you can create your own Google site, which means it has not be dependent on what I propose for you. This is one I created for you, this course, but you can create your own, or you can use a totally different software. That's totally up to you. The group has to find the software, the tool they want to use to create this portfolio. And I really, the process of decision of tool you take, this is also part of the learning process. Okay, I go back now to my presentation because there I think it's a bit better to show what I wanted to show. Here it is. So there I give you some ideas. It's about how to create Google Sites. This is for Google Sites. If you want to use another tool, feel free. You can use Wix, or there are many others. I go a bit deeper into the structure and the content of this ePortfolio. This ePortfolio must have an entry page. And before I showed you your entry page, which I created for you. But if you create your own Google Sites, then it will be your entry page. So the start, if you give the URL, you go into the entry page. You can also give the URL to group 1. So you get, this is the entry page. And there you must have an introduction of the group and the topics you're discussing about. Please make sure that within this entry page, the navigation is user-friendly. Prioritizing relevance of content, this is very important. So within this entry page, you create a navigation which is relevant. Of course, you cannot change the navigation of the site I proposed for you, but within of the page, you can also create some specific navigation which leads the persons to the place they want to go. Then second condition, the hypertext, it's called ePortfolio, it's also a hypertext from the technical point of view, has to be co-created. Or co-created, sorry, that's a mistake. You have to use a collaborative approach. One page, you have, it's actually number 3 should be, it's, oh, the formatting has changed. One page you share should be about the meme page of session 1. One page you should include session 2 activities and the posters. So all the things you publish now, you can really link directly to your e-portfolio. And then, of course, one page should display about why you choose this sort of e-portfolio and the roles of the members within the collaboration. So one was the technical advisor, one was the texter, one was the critical thinker, one was, so try to really assess specific roles. One was the facilitator, and then reflect about the 3 guiding questions. And the 3 guiding questions for the session 3 are related to the model of Harasin. Then you must have, of course, pages for session 4, pages for session 5, pages for session 6, and pages for session 7, pages for session 8. But of course, you still didn't have this session, so that means that will be updated in the future. Hopla. Oh, sorry, that was not what I wanted. Then you can also show some additional information to what you have done, like sort of video pages with video descriptions about what you did. And of course, they should be related to the sessions you have done. And of course, you should have also some useful links with description that also relate to the work you've done. This has to be content. So that means that the portfolio shows really your learning activity, what you thought about it, why you think it is useful, where you need some more information, where you need some more research. It has to be a reflection must be shown in your portfolio. And then the last but not least point, be aware that all the content you publish should be should go under a Creative Commons license. So don't publish things which are copyright protected. Don't use music in your things which has a copyright issue. Don't use videos or images where you take from sources which are copyright protected. Try to use only sources which are not protected. Of course, if you embed a YouTube video in your page, and this YouTube video has a background music which is copyright protected, then you don't infringe the law because you embed it and you don't store it on your e-portfolio, on your hypertext. So have a look at the Creative Commons rights and the copyright background in order to create a portfolio which underlays the Creative Commons license. So that's the last point I mentioned. And now it's time to start with your work, start with your homework. We make a break first, but you can start. I will be online till the end of the course, and I will help you out with all the things you need. But actually, my input is done for the moment. I have a question on the chat. Oh, let me open the chat. For the reflection for this session, do we need only one reflection per group, self-reflection per person? Well, no, actually, the reflection is something which is individual. The things is actually the reflection you do is something that cannot be done. It's an individual reflection. If you reflect about the poster, then the poster of another group, that can be done by one or two. But I'm not sure whether I really addressed the question. What sort of reflection are you talking about, Kathy?
The 500 to 600.
Yeah. No, this part, this is 500
reflection on
this is for this is a group reflection. Sorry, this one is a group reflection. Yeah, this is not something you have to do individually. Sorry, I didn't know what you rebase on. This is a group reflection.
Oh, okay. So in the end, we will put 500 to 600 words on the portfolio.
right? And this is
Okay.
something not by, you don't have to have names, it's something that's been done by the group. And of course, ideally it should grow in a collaborative way, but I know this is a bit too idealistic maybe. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
I stop the screen and I stop the recording. So